Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to, well, happy Homeownership Month. So in honor of the beginning of this month and also our annual event that we will be having on Thursday, we are launching our next iteration of our data portal. So welcome today. Thank you for your time this morning. I always like to start out by shouting out our research team because our research team is amazing. So I am the director of research. I am Amber Henley. Nice to meet you. I will be in this role through this month, and then I will transition out, but you will still see me around. Then we have our associate, Carrie Craig, who is our newest member. Our newest staff member, and we're very excited to have her here. Sukriti Sood, who you will hear from later. She's going to demo the portal for you all. On our call, we have one of my favorite people in this world, my former director, Spencer Cowan. He is a senior fellow with us and continues to help us grow and develop. We also have Cal Bradford, who will be honored at our event on Thursday, who has also helped inform a lot of how we built this out. And then Rebecca Perelman, who is our graduate intern. So we have a very wonderful staff, and I wanted to shout them out. This portal, this iteration of the portal was created with everyone here, and then those who came before us. We just are building on what other researchers at Woodstock have created, and we're grateful for their time and their foundation to take us where we are now. One person I do want to shout out is Natalie Chang, who was our associate last year, and a lot of what you're going to see today was her work, so we also want to thank her. So our norms for today, I already see it. We love to see faces. We have our little screens here, and we just love to see faces. But if you cannot come off or you can't come on camera, we totally understand, but if you can, please do. The other ask that we have is if you can just keep your questions centered on the function of the tool today. We're going to demo the tool. We're going to give you a little bit of background, but we want the focus to be on how to use this tool. And if you have specific questions about the data or deeper context, we want to have those conversations with you one-on-one, or we ask that you reach out via email. And if enough of you have these questions, that's going to form other webinars and conversations around whatever is not clear or whatever you want to know more about or whatever you want to dig more into. So throw all of your questions in the chat or feel free to draft them. Just open up an email doc, type in research@woodstockinst.org and just start typing all your questions in. And we're going to get back to you as soon as possible. Like we get to them today after this webinar, but we really want this webinar to be focused on making sure you understand how to use the tool that we've created. Also, raise your hand function if you do have a question related to something that Sukriti might have demoed. Maybe she went too fast. Just raise your hand and she will go back to that. Try your best not to direct message us because it can be distracting while one of us is presenting or we're trying to do some things. So if you need to get to one of us and you know that it's not related to the functionality or something showing on the screen that shouldn't be showing on the screen, go ahead and email us that. We're going to put our emails in the chat if they haven't already been placed in the chat. You can reach out to any of us directly, me, Sukriti, Carrie, or the research inbox that we all have access to. So community lending. If you are familiar with Woodstock, you are familiar with our community lending fact books, which we retired last year. We demoed the portal years ago, but now we are pivoting to focusing on the portal rather than the fact book. For one, it allows us to put multiple years at your disposal every year. And now we can expand for the entire state of Illinois. So before, our data portal and our fact book was for the Chicagoland area and would get into the collar counties or community areas. Now with this data portal, we're able to go a little bit deeper. Okay, the data comes from two federal laws, the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act and the Community Reinvestment Act, laws passed in the 70s after grassroots advocacy campaigns pushed for some remedy for redlining, the redlining that was uncovered. We have learned that many stakeholders can use this information. We can help people understand how to use the information. So community-based organizations can use this to develop lending partnerships and agreements. Community groups may have opportunities to negotiate reinvestment agreements when financial institutions apply to acquire or merge with another financial institution. We know that neighborhood organizations or individuals can use this to understand who to invest with. We know that local and state officials can also use this. For example, the city of Chicago, excuse me, could use the information on our data portal to decide where to place municipal deposits. So we have something, the lending equity ordinance that Woodstock is a part of. This tool is something that can be accessed by local officials all the time, rather than having to wait until we have that hearing towards the end of the year or the beginning of the year. Real estate agents can also help support their community members by identifying what lenders are working well in community. Lenders can also use the data to, if they're not already analyzing, which we hope that they are, but if they're not, or they have capacity issues, lenders can use the analysis to help accurately target their marketing, hiring, and lending programs to meet the needs of community. And then banking regulators, federal and state banking regulators, can use this information to assess the relative performance of different financial institutions. So there's a lot of text on these slides, and the reason why there are a lot of text on these slides is because we're going to provide this as the first user guide. So the things that you need to understand background-wise to use our tool, we're going to outline here, and we're going to make this accessible as well as this video. Some people are auditory learners, so you might want to open up the portal and listen to how you walk through this. And then we did put this in text if you want to just go back and review the language that we're going to use. So we've already mentioned this CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act, and that requires banks to invest back into LMI communities, low to moderate income communities that they're chartered to serve. And that CRA is meant to address the fact that minority and lower income communities may not receive the financial services that they need from their banks. So we have the word banks in there, and then later you'll see subject to CRA. We have a tab called lenders. And for our lenders, we want to make sure you understand what that means when we say that. That means a bank and that means a non-bank. Banks are subject to CRA, non-banks are not. And so we just want to make sure that you have those technical definitions. So when we say lenders, we are talking about those banks that are subject to the CRA, and we're talking about credit unions and mortgage companies as well. So we report on lenders that are a part of the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act data set. So again, those are banks and non-banks. The banks are subject to CRA. They have those federal requirements. And the non-banks, they do have requirements, but they're not the same. So another thing, language-wise, we want to make sure that we are clear on, we use origination and denial. So origination and denials are two possible outcomes of a loan application. There are other outcomes, but origination means the application was approved by the lender and accepted by the homeowner, and the process was completed. A denial is when an application is not approved by the lender, and it obviously could not have then been accepted by the homeowner, but the lender said no. An application may be denied for various reasons, and those aren't on our portal. So when we talk about origination and denial rates, those are calculated the number of originations divided by the number of loan applications. Okay, so the origination rate and the denial rate likely will not add to 100% because there are other things that could have happened. So some applications might have been approved by the lender, but not accepted by the homeowner. The homeowner or the applicant may have just withdrawn altogether or never completed the process. So they started and things were recorded, but they never completed. Or it could have been approved or denied for a specific reason. But you want to make sure that that's clear. So if you start playing with our portal and you're adding up numbers and you're like, this doesn't add up to 100, well, that's why. Other things on our portal that we don't spell out for you, we use the acronyms. Our loan to value, LTV, you're going to see, and you're also going to see DTI, debt to income ratio. So the loan to value is the size of your mortgage relative to the cost of your property. So if you have a smaller down payment, you're going to have a higher loan to value. That means you put down more upfront, so you're going to have to pay a larger portion, a larger percentage of the value of the home. But if you have a larger down payment, you're going to have a smaller loan to value. Debt to income, that is a ratio of how much debt. That's based on what's reported on your credit. So not necessarily like debts to individuals that is not reported on your credit report. It's debts that are reported and recorded on that credit report divided by your income. Income that is based on your taxes, pay stubs, things like that the lender would require from you. So this we have, and we'll talk about this on the next slide. So the other language that you want to be familiar with, if you're not already, I've already used it, is LMI, low to moderate income. So AMI is also an acronym that is frequently used, but it's defined here, the area median income. So levels that are determined by your area median income and your household size will determine if a household makes 50% below the area median income, the AMI, they are identified as a low income households. The moderate threshold is that 80% or lower. So LMI will refer to that range between or that range of less than 80% of the area median income. Another phrase that you will see, it's a category, is borrowers of color. And those are applicants that reported their race or ethnicity as Asian, Black, Latina, multiracial, Native American, or Pacific Islander. Earlier, I used the term minority. Those have been interchangeable. Some will not use minority, and they will only use borrowers of color, but I think that you should be familiar with all of these different words. So now that we front loaded what you need to know to use this tool, the background information, let's talk about what's now inside of our data portal. If you've used our data portal before, you're familiar with some of these things. It has been tweaked. Some of them have been tweaked. And then some of them, we have new tabs that are completely added. The overview tab is data on household demographics and housing stock in Illinois. And that comes from census data. So that's a tab that you're already familiar with because it looks like it did before. There's a different filter that we'll talk about in a moment. Then there's the top lender tab. So again, remember we say lender, that would include banks and non-banks. So the lender, you will be able to view the number of applications, originations, and denial, as well as the total loan amount and percentage of loans originated, loans for purchase and refinance, and loans originated to LMI households and borrowers of color. And this data comes from our Home Mortgage Disclosure Act data. This tab is also one that you're already familiar with. We'll talk about what's different on this tab in a moment. Then we have our mortgage tab. So some of these tabs were, again, there's stuff that you're familiar with, but they might have shortened because we increased our tabbage. And so we've shortened some of our tab. So just, I think this was mortgage lending before, now it's just mortgage. So you already know this. And this is also powered by our Home Mortgage Disclosure Act data. Everything that I am breaking down right now is also broken down in the same way on our introduction tab. I have not highlighted our introduction tab, so Cody's going to demo that for you. There's an introduction tab that also has all the information that I'm sharing with you now about what's inside. We have our small business tab, which is the same as we've had before, but we'll talk about what's different in a moment. Our foreclosure tab. So earlier I'd shared that we have now expanded this data portal to cover all of Illinois. We used to be very Chicago centric, and we only report on the Chicagoland area. Now we report on all of Illinois, except for the foreclosure tab. So our foreclosure tab is data that we purchase, and it's specific to our Chicagoland region. So I want to call out this particular tab. So if you're excited about looking at different counties or different zip codes across the state, I'm sorry that I have to burst your bubble. Foreclosures will not allow you to do that. Now, if this is something that we really want to need, you're going to let me know that, because we're going to talk about some surveys that are also a part of this intro. And that will also be a part of this slide deck that will be accessible to you. There's some hyperlinks that I'll share with you. The bank branch tab, if you notice, we have a lender tab, and this is a bank branch tab, and we define the difference between a bank and a non-bank. And on this tab are just bank branch locations. And we've also included a map. So that's different than something that we'd had before. So we have a map now on this tab, and it's for the entire state. With the caveat of 1 year 2018, but I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But it also now still gives you that total number of bank. So the bank branch tab that you were familiar with from before just had by year the total number of bank branches. We still have that, but we also have a map that will show you where they're located. And we also now have a table that shows you how much in deposits were taken each year from the banks. And I'm going to get ahead of myself here because I'm very excited about this. We also now have a lender tab, or lender filter. I'm going to give more detail, but I think it's so cool to note that for this particular tab, you can select by a lender that you want to see. And I'm stealing Sukure's thunder, so actually let me stop. I want her to blow your minds. Then we have a racial outcome tab that just focuses on the distribution of applications across race. Then you can see originations across race. And then you can see denials across race. So it lets you clearly see distributions and if they're equitable or not. Then we have our comparison tab, which we're super geeked about, that will always feature the entire state of Illinois on the top left corner. Then on the top right corner is the city of Chicago statistics. And then we give you the option to compare 2 other regions. So Sukure's going to show you what that looks like in a moment. And these are the last 2 are powered by HMDA data. I told you that we purchase our foreclosure data, and that's record information services. And then our bank branch location comes from FDIC data. And all of these data sets will be also hyperlinked on the intro. So if anybody's interested, we have data scientists who want to pull the data themselves. It hyperlinks to allow you to figure out, well, how do I get this myself? And then I have some more fun stuff to tell you about that in a moment. So now let's talk about how you use it. The first thing you need to do is select a year of interest. If for some reason you're interested in years, you can do that. You can do that as well. But the tool is going to auto-populate every year. And when we add 2023, which will hopefully come out in a matter of months, we're just going to add another box that you can check. And that number is going to grow. If you just click on the link, you're going to see all the years. So you want to first select a year, because I'm not really sure if you really want to understand all of that, you probably want to focus in on a year. So please do that first. That is the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is select your geography of interest, because it's automatically populated to give you the information for the entire state of Illinois. The cool thing that we have are multiple geographies. So as soon as you click on this link, you're going to be able to see Illinois, and you're going to get to pick, well, what geography how granular do I want to get? Do I want to go by county? You would select county, and you're going to get the list of the counties that you can choose. Or municipality, same thing. And I starred municipality because, again, we used to be very Chicago-centric. So we had a button that just said Chicago, and then because we're the best thing in the world, so you just pick that. Well, I've asked to take that away, because I want Chicagoans to work for it a little bit. And also I want this to be about the state of Illinois and where Chicago plays its role within the state. So now if you want to just look at Chicago specific, you want to select municipality and find Chicago. You can look at zip codes across the state Senate district across the state, state House district across the state, which is super cool. Now, if you are interested in really getting into the weeds of Chicago, because I'm trying to get us to be less Chicago-centric, but I am honestly very Chicago-centric. So I'm going to be someone who's going to focus on these lists that have asterisks by them. Those are the ones that are only for Chicago. So if you select any one of these, that's going to auto-populate Chicago as a whole, unless you select one or two options. So if it says community area asterisk, that literally is going to break down by the 77 community areas. And then we just added a feature for the city region. So the far south side, the north side, the northwest side. If you want to get in the weeds there, you can do that now. And ward is coming soon. Any moment now, we're adding ward because we find a lot of value in that as well. Okay, so those are the first two things you do. You select the year, then you select the geography. This is the part I already started talking about. If you want to take a deep dive, if you want to go further, so we have these like high level, all of these numbers. If you want to get very specific, we now have included a plethora of filters for you to really understand what it is that means the most to you and your institution or whatever you're doing in that moment. So if you want to get specific about race, you can now filter by race. So these are all the races that are reported on HMDA for each application. And notice that we do have a race not reported category that we do quantify. That is growing. That population is growing. And it's a nuanced reason as to why people are not reporting their race. And you will let us know if you think we should have a webinar to discuss that. So I'm putting that out there. I want your feedback on that. So I'll talk about this later. You can also then look at specific race and ethnicity. So if you care about Chinese outcomes, you don't have to just look at Asian, which is going to bucket Chinese and Indian and Filipino. Yes, Filipino is Asian. It is Asian for the sense or for this particular thing. It's not going to bucket. You can just aggregate now, and you can focus in on Puerto Rican outcomes rather than just Latina if you want to. Okay, so now there's a section that allows you to do that. Now that is only for anything that's powered by HMDA data, because that is only reported in that way for us for HMDA data. We also now have a filter for well-qualified applicant. So we defined this last year with our Reframing the Racial Wealth Gap article. We were just trying to prove the point that regardless of financial status, there was a difference in origination rates as well as property values for Black applicants versus white applicants, regardless of if they were well qualified. And so we used the two underwriting standards of 80% DTI, 80% LTV or less, meaning somebody at least brought 20% to the table. So that would eliminate PMI and you should be conventional bound. And a DTI of 43% or less, which is again underwriting standard. So when we talk about well-qualified applicants, which is also something that we'll talk about in our trends reports, we are not saying that these applicants are better in any way, shape, or form. We're just referring to the underwriting standards. And so that also allows you to quickly see differences in treatments. You can click, oh, well, what's the difference between those who are well qualified, or you just take out that financial piece. So now you can do a yes or no there. And remember, otherwise, if it's not those things together, it's not an or, it has to be the LTV less than or equal to 80% or the DTI less than or equal to 43%. Otherwise, the answer is no there. So then we have our loan purpose. There's the cash out refinancing, home improvement loans, which we recently created a portal for the Fix Our Homes Illinois campaign that focuses on home improvement loans for seniors. There's an other category, purchase loans, refinance loans. So now if you want to see differences there, you can select that as well. And I'm not done. There's more filters. Occupancy type. Are we looking at investments? Because that's actually important for something. If we're thinking about like gentrification, maybe we might be filtering by investments to understand what's happening year to year and where this is happening. Principal or primary residence. So this says principal, but we also use the term primary residence. That means this is going to be owner occupied. This is where somebody is going to be living. And then a secondary residence. So they're interesting for different reasons. Again, whatever you're interested in understanding, whatever is going to support your work now, you're able to break it down in this way. You can layer filter on filter. I just also want to add that. If you want purchase loans for primary residence, you can do that if you want to get in the weeds like that. So Katie's going to show you in a moment. Loan type. This is also for advocates, advocates have traditionally not been a fan of FHA. So they really want to look at the difference, the distribution of FHA versus conventional. And you're going to see the USDA and other regions, maybe not Chicago specific. And you might want to understand where veterans are buying homes. So now you can focus up there. First lien versus subordinate lien status. We've also pieced that out. A lot of our research focuses on first lien versus the subordinate or the secondary lien. And then we also have LMI census tract purchases. That's only on 1 or 2 specific tabs. And these census tracts are from the US Census, where 51% or more of the households earn below that 80% threshold of AMI. And I'm almost done, and then I'm going to stop talking, and then Security is going to shine. The other things that we want to show you are our lender tab. I'm sorry, not lender tab, our lender filter. This lender filter is sprinkled throughout the tabs, which is super cool. That racial tab, you can filter by lender to see what their distributions look like. That mortgage tab, you can do the same. And it's an alphabetical list. She's going to show you how it works. On that bank branch location tab, there's also now a lender branch. You can look at specific branches to see what's going on there, which I think is super cool. I need to tell you, Security surprised me with that one. That was all her. I think it's amazing. LMI borrowers identified by the 80% AMI threshold. So there's a filter that if you just want to see what's happening for LMI borrowers, you just hit that button. If not, you can do the non-LMI if you want to make some comparisons. We talked about what LTV means. So we look at the loan to value. That also shows about how much that it's a proxy for how much cash people have on hand and have access to for their homes, for their down payments. So we have the less than 80%, which means there is no PMI. They should be conventional. They should be conventional. Between 80 and 90%, and then the greater than 90%. These are the categories. So as you play with this tool, you're hearing I'm breaking everything down for you. If you have ideas and there are things that you're like, I wish you could do it this way, I'd like to see it this way, these are all things we want you to put in an email to us, because we'll look at that and we'll see if we have multiple people say that they think that we should do the LTV in this way, or they'd like to see an additional filter here, then we can look at that if we have enough interest or enough need, or we can reach out to you directly and say, okay, well, we clean the data set and this is what this looks like for us to give it to you. So again, I've sprinkled the data sets throughout, but I just want to go back to Home Mortgage Disclosure Act data, ACS data, CRA data, FDIC data, and then what we purchased from Record Information Services. My last slide before I let Security go. Just want to talk about our progress and our caveats. All of this is laid out on our introduction tab. And as we check off these things, we're going to update that tab and you will see this in real time. So I just wanted to note that unlike previous years, for this portal, we do not report on loans purchased by banks for CRA credit. So before, our portal did have those loans embedded, but right now what you're going to see is what lenders, what lenders did on the ground. So not what they purchased from another institution. And our race and ethnicity categories add up to 100%, and they didn't before. And just like I mentioned, some people don't want to use the word minority anymore. They focus on borrowers of color. There's also no consistent, or there's not, I'm forgetting the word, consensus around how to do race and ethnicity correctly. So there is a camp that does not like the way that we have done the 100%. And there is a camp that is fine with it. So what we are also doing to make sure that everybody gets what they need and how they need it, we've cleaned our data set. We cleaned our data sets back to 2018, where everything is clear, and anybody who wanted to recalculate race based on how they see that playing out can do that. And we're going to upload that, the raw, well, they're not raw, the clean data set, the complete data set, but that has been cleaned and has banks linked and has community areas linked and all the geographies that don't come and it's not easy to do. We're going to also make that accessible again. So if you want to change it, you want to look at purchase loans, you can look at purchase loans. We will make that data accessible to you. So a repository is coming first. So if you're mad at us for our race and ethnicity calculations, I have a workaround for you. So please. please bear with us. Filter. So the filter to quickly separate banks subject to CRA from other lenders will return soon. That was there in our old portal. We took it off, but we're adding it back. So it's coming back, so don't be alarmed. Bank branch data for 2018 only includes the Chicago area locations and information for now. We're working to add that as well, but we didn't want to hold up. We're ready to demo this and to have you start playing with it, but it's the only year that's missing all of the state. But we will add it and we'll update on the intro once that's been done. Again, I told you that a Chicago ward geography is going to be added. So that's exciting. So foreclosure and bank branch tabs have limited geographies. We will expand bank branch geographies, however, right? Because we just have to update that. However, foreclosure geographies will remain limited given to the data set that we purchase, unless we get demand, right? If we get these emails that you want them, then we'll talk to our funders about being able to afford that for you. Bank branch tab may be extending to include credit agreements soon because we've got a request for that. And we have that for a year or two, but we didn't put it on here because we didn't have it for all the years. So if we get enough requests for that as well, we'll be talking to our funders because we had to purchase that data. We will talk to our funders to get us some more to get the rest of the years if that's something that's interesting to everyone. But I just want to remind you to stay tuned to the introduction tab because all of this is currently listed there. What is missing, what you need to be careful with. And as we resolve issues, we will take these items off and we will timestamp it. So this is your tool. We are launching 2 surveys because we're adding a tab for 5-year trends, but we didn't want to do that without your input. Like we have an idea. We totally could have just done something. But I really want to have a conversation with you all about what 5-year trends you want to see. I imagine origination rates, denial rates are something that's important, but like what else? And there are so many variables that we have not reported on in HMDA. And so I've launched 2 surveys that have these variables that we don't report, that has their description. But I've gotten feedback that that survey is overwhelming because it is very overwhelming because it's just a lot. There's a question, but I still ask you to take the survey because in the beginning of it, I say, do you think it's worth us having a webinar to just break down what these things are? And I think that's probably going to be the route we take, but that should be my decision. I'd like it to be yours as the users of our tool. So please, these are hyperlinked on our introduction page as well. They will be hyperlinked on this, this faux user guide once I convert this slide deck for you all. So you can take these surveys, but we want that. And I'm done. I talk so much. I'm sorry, Skriti. It's all on our superstar who created this portal. And I will let her show you how it works.
No, you're good. Thank you so much, Amber, for sharing all of this. And finally, I'll take you now to our tool. Let me know if you can see my screen, and on the screen you can see the tool. All
we
right.
got it.
Great. So hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome, and we hope that this tool proves to be useful for you. I'll start by showing you how to get to this tool. If you Google our website, you will end up coming across woodstockinstitute.org, which is our website, and this is how it looks. It's very simple to get to our tool. If you just go to the Community Lending Data Portal, that will put you on our tool. So here we go. Here's the portal, and I am ready to demo now. So let's get started. Okay, so we do have a lot to say, and while this info session it will be on YouTube, and probably for eternity or up until this data portal remains relevant, whichever is first. We do not want to leave our new users hanging, which is why we put it all up here. And basically all that Amber said and everything that we wanted to put on here is onto the introduction page for our portal. It is long, I'll have you know that. So this is 4 pages long, but it acts as a user guide. It lets you know what's on the portal, how do we envision you would use the portal. The second page shows you where the data is from. There are hyperlinks as to where we collected this data from. We want to keep everything transparent and out there for you to utilize if that is something you would prefer. But yes, these are the hyperlinks to where we got all of our data from. And if you would like, this is where you go and explore it for yourself. The third page explains how.
City, there was a request to make it larger. Can you make this page larger?
Let me try.
And if not, I can, oh no, we never was gonna put the link in, but I want you to.
Did it work?
Yes.
Oh, great. So yes, this is our filters deep dive. That tells you all the filters that are on here. The fourth page now is kind of like your genie here. You can tell what you wish to see here and just click on these things and open our surveys and put up all your requests here. And we're the brains behind the genie, and we'll try to fulfill your requests as much as possible. So here's the introduction page for you to explore. Go all out, please explore. But yes, I will move on from here. Our second tab is the overview tab, wherein we use ACS data to power this tab, and we try to give you a sense of what's down there on different geographic levels. So as Amber mentioned, you can go in and select an year. As she mentioned, all the years are pre-selected. You can go in and select one particular year here. For example, do not fear that it goes all blank. It's just that it needs to work to your wishes and commands, right? So you just go in, pick an year or several years. So this is data for 2018. If I add in another year, you'll see some things will change on here as they did. If you want to compare multiple years, you can go in, choose one year, go back out, choose the second year, do all of that stuff. You can go in and select geographies that you would wish to see. So for example, there's the county geography selected on here, which shows all the counties from the state of Illinois. If that is something you wouldn't like, you can go in and pick another geography. So if I wish to see things for municipality, I'll just go in here, click municipality, and it'll show me all the different municipalities in Illinois. If I want to see it for one particular one, for example, Chicago, I can even go in, search for Chicago in here, select it, and it'll auto-populate. So that's how you do things here. And I hope this helps. As Amber also mentioned, we have multiple geographic features now. So county, municipality, zip code, state senate district, state house district, community area, and city region. Go all out and enjoy. The second tab on here is our top lender tab, which is, as Amber mentioned, it's powered by our HMDA data. Again, we have a few additional filters here to deep dive, but also this is what the tab looks like. You can go in, increase or decrease the number of top lenders you would want to view. The current number is set to 50, but as you wish, you can go in, decrease and increase the number. There's also an option to sort the table by. So currently it's sorted by the number of applications. So the highest number of applications show up here. But if you would like, you can sort it by originations, loan amounts, LMI originations, minority originations, purchase and refinance originations. Again, you can go in here, we can choose an year, select the geographies, use the race filter to select for a particular race. For example, if I just want to see Asian applicants, I'll go in and pick Asian, and the numbers will change to display all the Asian applicants. So this is for all 5 years. If I want to add a particular race, I can do that too. Or if I do want to get to a specific race or ethnicity, I can go in and pick and choose from here. So if you're selecting just Asian, the options that will show up here will just be for Asian. If you select more, for example, if I put in Latino, it'll expand to show up those categories as well. So you can use this to your benefit. We also have a well-qualified applicant category, which we mentioned. So it's as easy to just go in and choose yes or no there. Loan purpose, occupancy type, loan type, and lien status. So this is all for your perusal, and you can play away with this and enjoy. The third tab is our mortgage tab. Again, as we mentioned, this is very much like our previous years, except that it now utilizes all 5 years of data. So you can do the same thing on here. Same thing with the geography, specific race and ethnicity. We do not include the race filter here because it's obvious. We have all the race breakdowns here. But if you wanna, for example, see it just for Chinese applicants, that's how it'll auto-populate. So that's it. It's as easy as it could get. And oh, yes. Now we come to our lender feature. So that is something that's new on here, and I think it's very useful. If you want to go in and see the numbers for a particular lender on here. So for example, I want to see it for, let's say, JP Morgan. So I find it on here, I select this, and then we'll just get numbers for JP Morgan. So I think that's something very useful and beneficial to our users. Moving on, we now go to our small business tab. So on here, we try to break down by all the counties in Illinois and then community areas for where it's available. But in addition to that, we also have our additional geographies on here. So you could, again, just go in and do the same thing, and it'll populate by whatever geography you select and the year. And then we have the LMI tract feature on here, which again, Amber explained what we define as LMI tracts and what we don't. So you can consult our user guide to see what tracts would fall under the LMI tract. We then have our foreclosures tab. So here we try to give a baseline, which is for our 7-county region, which consists of Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, Lake, McHenry, and Will. Basically all of these that are on here. But then for this one, you can go in and pick your own geography, and then it'll auto-populate according to that. So for example, I just want to see it for Kendall compared to the 7-county region. That's how it'll auto-populate. And it'll change numbers on here. If I want to choose McHenry. So that's how you'll do it. I can show one for community area. So for example, if I just want to see Austin and what the numbers look like there. So this gets auto-populated just for Austin. And of course, numbers will tell you the greater picture out there. So let's now move on to our bank branches tab. This is exciting. We have a map on here finally. So this shows you all the bank branches that are in the state of Illinois for the past 5 years, except for 2018. That is limited to our 7-county region. So if I want to go in here and see the bank branches for 2022, that's how it works. It'll show me just the bank branches. These are all the bank branches from 2022, compared to something like maybe 2018, which has less branches because of the 7-county region. So they're all consolidated on here. So that's something you can do. You will see these numbers don't change because they're for all the years down here, which is why even if you select the year filter, nothing changes on here. But you can go in and change your geographies, and things will again change according to your geographies. So let me show you zip codes, and let's see what that does. So if I choose just this zip code, you'll see all the bank branches on here. You can go in, play around, magnify, and look at the bank branches on here. These numbers also get changed according to whatever geography you select on here. Again, something cool is the lender feature. So the same thing, I can go in, pick and choose a particular lender, let's say American Eagle, and things will populate for American Eagle. All of their branches will show up, their numbers will show up. That's how things work. Now, in addition to our lender, we also have a lender branch option on here. So if you're interested in just a particular branch, you can go in and pick a branch. How this would best work is you go in, you pick a lender that you want, and then these branches will auto-populate to show you just branches for those lenders only. So that's how I would use it. I would go in, choose a lender, and then go in and see its branches and then see the numbers on here. That's how you would do it. Coming to racial outcome, which is something that is Amber's favorite because she has a big hand in doing this. We have now this is a tab that kind of gives you summaries for everything. So you'll see all our past filters on here, but also the lender filter. So if you want to see numbers by lenders, that's something that you can do on here. We have this divided by races. We also have our specific race ethnicity filter on here, our geographies, years. All our additional filters are on here. But again, you could select a particular lender. Maybe, okay, let's do BMO this time. So, okay, so here I pick BMO Harris. And then this is my lender. These are its numbers. So you can go in, choose from our, I want to say 700 lenders and do your thing. The last tab is our comparison tab, which I am excited about because it allows you to compare things side by side. So our idea here is we do a baseline thing wherein we give you numbers for Illinois, we give you numbers for City of Chicago, but in addition to that, we allow you to do two comparisons. So for example, if I want to, we can again pick and choose our geographies. But if I want to compare two counties to each other, so I'll pick a county from here, so Adams, for example, and then I can go in, pick another county on here. Let's see. Let's pick Cook. So now it's allowing me to compare Adam County numbers to Cook County numbers, but also in addition to Illinois numbers and City of Chicago numbers. So we think that's something that's really cool and for you to play around with. That's about the functionality of it. Another thing I would like to clarify is the geographies and how we've assigned multiple geographic features, because I think transparency there is important. Now, there's something to understand that most of these numbers are at census tract levels or at FIPS code levels. So it wasn't necessarily very easy to assign additional geographies to it because things like state senate districts or municipalities, they don't actually really align with census tract boundaries. So there's a methodology that has gone behind aligning these things. I just want to be clear on that. For our, okay, I'll just open this. For our municipalities, we've used maximum overlaps to assign additional geographies. For our other things, we've used centroids. So for someone who's familiar with ArcGIS, this would be easy for you. For others, it might get a little hard to understand. But what a centroid means, if there's a central point in a particular census tract, or if there's something bigger, like there's a county, and there's a central point where multiple things come together, that will be a centroid. I'm not sure how well I'm explaining this, but if there are additional questions, you can come up to me and ask. In addition, largest overlap is, I think, the easiest to get you to understand. For example, I have the City of Chicago. If there are multiple census tracts in it, that's what I would assign it to, right? So there's a larger overlap there. That is the largest overlap that we've used to assign municipalities. I will not go into more details, but if there's any additional questions, please come up to me, let me know. We'll be putting out our email IDs on here, and you can write to us to know more about this. And that's about it for my demo.
Thank you, Sukriti. You are amazing. Thank you so much. And I will wrap this up. And I imagine, give me one moment while I reshare. Forgive me for starting all the way back here. Like I said, we have these two surveys that we've already launched. They're on that introduction page. We'll also share out in our newsletter links to these things, as well as this slide deck and a recording of this. If you missed any part of it, it might be quicker for you to read the slide deck than to relive and listen to. I can be wordy and verbose, but I'm also very entertaining. So you might want to watch it while you do your things. But if you have any questions or concerns, Spencer had a question in the chat. I'm going to verify. I think we know the answer, but we will get back to you on that. I'm hoping that our inbox is full of questions that you had. We did clarify one about the HMDA data. So if you want to know what is on the data set on the introduction, whatever that, in parentheses at the end, whatever data set powers that page, that is what is presented. We actually ran out of, because we put so much information on these tabs, we ran out of space to put, we used to have these little definitions about this is HMDA, this, that, and the other, but we've got so much good information that we ran out of space for that little bit of text. So we're hoping this workaround works until we can upgrade our systems, which again, we'll talk to our funders about that if we hear enough complaints about it. Again, if you have any questions or thoughts, hit us up at research@woodstockinst.org. You can email us directly, but remember that this inbox comes to all of us. And so sometimes it's faster just to send it here because one of us will say, oh, no, this is for her or this is for her, and we'll get it to the right person. So thank you for your time. We wanted to use this just to demo the tool. We're sorry that we didn't have enough time for questions, but we really had a lot to tell you about how to use the tool. And we can have subsequent webinars where we do more back and forth. If you ask for that, we will give it to you. So again, thank you from our team. I love my team. I'm so happy. And thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Rob Mayo, who was in the background, who has helped us put all of this on. The rest of our staff, we love everyone. And we hope to see many of you on Thursday at our annual Economic Justice Awards, 5:30 to 7:30 at the University Club. Same place it's been for the last few years. And again, thank you for coming. And I hope that you have a beautiful day and nice rest of your week. And we do hope to see you Thursday. So thank you for joining us. Bye.